PulseChain, it's your bud, MoteItBe, Steveo. I am back with you. I am in the Telegram groups. I'm in the Discords. I'm on X. I see what you guys are dealing with, and I see that we have a number of new folks. That's awesome. Welcome. I'm glad you're here. So it's my mission here at MoteItBe Steveo to help guide you through everything that is BetterBank. If you're just seeing me, if this is like one of your first videos, I started making videos essentially because of BetterBank. I come from a multimedia performing arts background and hadn't really done much with it since pandemic. And so I have this kind of personality, this skill set, I guess. But it seemed like there wasn't really a niche to fill. It seemed like there was a lot of people doing a really great job. You know, folks like your friend Sami and Coexist and Steven and Crypto Coffee and like all these guys were doing a really good job. They don't need me, you know. And then BetterBank came along. And I saw BetterBank. I think I had a day off or something. I happened to find it. It's not like I was patiently awaiting its launch like a lot of people. I think I heard about it the day it launched. I don't even remember how I heard about it. Because there's stuff that comes up on the channel all the time, right? There's like gaming and there's new protocols. There's all sorts of stuff. And I saw this and I'm like, okay, what's this? It might have been the logo that first caught my eye. Or maybe it was just the name, Better Bank. I'm like, okay, what's so better about it? And I sat with Grok and ChatGPT and I went through the white paper, which, by the way, they're updating the white paper. You can find that on their website, betterbank.io. At the homepage, you can click on documentation, but take that with a grain of salt. They're in the process of updating a lot of that. Not everything there is 100% accurate. They're going to continue to update it over the coming weeks. And there's more changes on the horizon. We'll talk about that more. I went through this documentation and, it's pages and pages and pages and pages. And I don't really know that I'd ever done this to this extent with another project. I put it in Chat GPT and Grok, and I was like, explain this to me. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. And I just asked questions. So, well, does that mean this? And does it mean that? So I was like, this is really cool. Mainly, what's cool about BetterBank? What do I love? Top of my head. We don't dump here. We build currently. If you're in the wildlands, you're saying, Steve-O, the prices are pretty poopy right now in the groves. And I would agree with you. But we've seen greatness, and I think we'll see greatness again. Nikki and the team just announced, they put up an announcement earlier today about some changes that they're going to make with DApp and some of the other Favor tokens. If you're just joining us, any token with F at the end is the Favor version of that token, which is the BetterBank paired version. And they work in conjunction in a thing called a liquidity pool to act as collateral. So we borrow from collateral. What is collateral? Our collateral for the loan is a liquidity pool token. That's your receipt that you built liquidity. When you build liquidity, you're pairing two assets to be traded in between. So, for instance, Pulse and Pulse Favor, PLSF, or Pulse X and Pulse X Favor, or PDI and PDI Favor, or EDI and EDI Favor. And those come together, and that allows people to trade in between them, thickening the liquidity, bettering the system, growing BetterBank. And then that has a value because that receipt, that token, can be broken, it can be split into its two base assets. But because of the nature of the system, you end up getting more by borrowing against it than you do selling it. Now, that would suggest that you might be thinking, so nobody's ever going to sell it. And that's not true. Sales do occur pre-exploit. You might have noticed that things grew very quickly. We were on aggressive mode pre-exploit, and things were going really, really quickly. Mainly a lot of the protocol income, the protocol funds, went back into the stronghold, which means that the wildlanders could borrow it again. If they were liquidated, which is not a big deal in our ecosystem. I know liquidation is the big scary word, but it's not a big deal in BetterBank ecosystem because that favor token you probably got for free. So today I'm going to go through what to do when, right? There's a great infographic for this. Typically, there are two scenarios to get into the wildlands, and that is here and here. I'm going to start here. I hope you can see my cursor because that's the situation we're in currently, which is purchasing Favor as a way to get Esteem. Okay. So if we come back over to home, notice here it says, do not purchase BetterBank tokens or create LPs outside the ecosystem. It's not advisable to buy Favor if the TWAP of that Favor type is above 3.0, because doing so will mean a direct loss to you. It is advisable to mint Esteem during those times. That's what we're talking about right now. So what is TWAP? TWAP is time-weighted average price. You can see those in the Wildlands. So we're in Wildlands. You got three things up top here. If we're over in the Groves, you can see the TWAP right here. Currently, our TWAPs are really low, like really, really low. That will be fixed. We can already see we're hopefully on the mend here with PulseX and maybe with Pulse as well. But these recently got fairly crushed, prompting the team to make some changes here. So this is definitely under 3.0. All of these are, which means you have the opportunity right now to purchase Favor and get a bonus 44% value in Esteem. So I'm going to see if I can demonstrate. Of course, I can demonstrate that. If I were to go to the marketplace, and if I were to buy, let's say, Pulse X. Oh, I don't have Pulse X in my wallet because this is my little test wallet. I do have PDI because we have 50 cents of it or whatever. If I were to buy 100, that'd be 22 cents worth of PDI Favor with my core PDI. I get bonus Esteem of that much. What is that? 0.003454, and we're going to multiply that times the current Esteem price, which you can see is $28.25. So we're going to multiply that times $28.25. This increases in price every single day by 25 cents. So the longer you wait, the more expensive it is to get in. I got here 9.75 cents in Esteem. If I divide that by 22 cents, I'm at 44.3% bonus. So it's around 44% is what you get. And that goes for any of these with a TWAP under 3. So you would bring your core token, Pulse, PulseX, PDI, or EDI. More tokens coming soon. It would show my balance available if I had any, and I could buy as much as I wanted. And when I did that, I would get a 44% bonus Esteem. The goal here in the Wildlands is you want Esteem. Esteem is like the ownership token of the bank. It is like owning stock in the bank. Okay. It makes you the banker. The more Esteem you get, the more bullish you are for the future value and growth of the BetterBank ecosystem. You have a larger ownership of its success. Okay. Favor is what you get with Esteem. So let's go back over here. What do you do with Esteem? So because the TWAPs are low, I'm going to purchase my Favor and I'm going to get a bonus Esteem. What do I do with Esteem? Esteem, I stake it. How do I stake it? Cool. Glad you asked. Let's see here. I go over to the Groves. I'm still in the Wildlands, right? But I'm going to come over to the Groves and I would stake my Esteem. So you get to decide where you stake your Esteem. So notice it does a nice calculation for you here. Daily yield per Esteem. So that's paying 1.8 cents. This is paying 0.81 cents. This is paying 0.39 cents. And this is paying 0.51 cents. If it were me, I would be staking over here in the PDI Favor pool. If I were to stake, I don't have any. Oh, I do have some Esteem in this wallet. Hey, I've got $7 in Esteem in this wallet. Hot diggity dang. Ha Man, I should be putting that to work. And then I'm going to stake the Esteem. So I've approved to use it. Now I'm going to stake it, and it will tell me what I will get for it. And there we are. So estimated rewards, it's estimating I'm going to make 20.5 PDI F. That's PDI Favor per day. This number will continue to fluctuate depending on how many people enter this pool. So it says my estimated daily rewards here are right there, and I can withdraw that Esteem and get my Esteem back. And I can put it in any of these other pools. Notice down here it says no active state lock. Once you withdraw, if you were to put in to withdraw in the same epoch, you've got to wait 2 hours to put it somewhere else. And that's to help people be able to look at these numbers and to plan. That way people aren't jumping in and out all the time, right? Okay, so if I have Esteem every epoch, which is every hour, I'm going to print for myself. Right down here, it would say pending rewards. And if I waited a day, right here, it would say roughly 20 PDI favor, PDIF. And I would claim those. I would hit claim all. I have 0. But then I would, click through the transactions with my wallet and I would claim those. And I would have more favor. Because remember, we still have the original favor that we purchased. So I took my bonus Esteem, I staked it, and I got favor. But I already purchased favor. Why is there a bonus here? Well, because when those TWAPs are low, the system incentivizes us to buy them up in order to drive the price up. And when it's over 3.0, that's no longer the case. So that's essentially when you can think of that like when the BetterBank economy gets a little too hot, then that bonus cools off, it turns off, and it's just on or off. It's not if it's over, it's like a light switch. Over 3.0, 3.0 or over, you don't get the bonus. If it's under anything under 3.0, you do get the bonus. Right? So you do have to be under, not at. So now we know what to do with Esteem. Esteem is what we're looking at. Esteem is passive income. Esteem is your passive income machine. You can think of it like a virtual BetterBank crypto miner, right? Every day it's going to crank this out, but you're not going to have a $300 or $400 electric bill, right? I used to mine Bitcoin right there, actually. You can't see, but my fuse box is right there. And I used to sit right here and sound like a freaking jet engine all of the time. And I paid about $380 in additional electric every day. So this is, obviously a different system. And I would make that passively. So you say, well, I sell that, right, for my profit. No, you don't. And that's yet another reason why BetterBank is better, because that's a big issue that Richard Hart, creator of PulseChain, has pointed out before. Bitcoin, as incredible as Bitcoin has done, Bitcoin would be much higher in price if the miners didn't have to constantly sell down the price to pay their electric bill. So this token, like so many others, that's no longer the case. You don't have to sell. You can actually use those profits in another way. So Esteem is, if you're a wildlander, Esteem is what you want. Esteem is your percentage of ownership in the BetterBank's future. And when you stake Esteem, the only real thing to do with it, I mean, you could smelt it, but you're going to take a 30% haircut, as this says. You would burn, and you would only get 70% out. And what you would get is 70% out in favor tokens. Everything is bringing you down here to favor tokens. You bought favor when the TWAP is low you get a bonus, 44%. So now let's use an example of $100. If you bought $100 in favor, you have currently $100 in favor and 44 extra dollars in Esteem. You put that 44 extra dollars in Esteem to work, and you're going to make favor every epoch, every hour. So what do you do with all this favor? Favor is like credit. Okay, so if Esteem is the ownership token for BetterBank, right? It's like the stock. It is like owning a share of the bank. You're the banker. Favor is like your credit score. It doesn't matter if you have a 750 credit score if you don't use it, right? You could have gone without a lot of things and you have a perfect 800 credit score, but unless you do something with it, it's totally useless, right? So there are people that try to hoard favor, and I wouldn't recommend it. It's a risky game, and yes, technically there might be a situation where it would go up, but it is best used, especially because you get it mostly for free every hour. So how is it for free? Well, let's see. So back over here at our infographic, we have purchase favor to get the Esteem bonus. We have earned the groves by staking our Esteem. We have earned favor. So now we have favor. What do you do with it? You could sell it. You sure could. And let me show you where you do that. You can sell it the same place you bought it. Over in the marketplace, you would hit sell. It will tell you that there's slippage, or there may be slippage, and it will tell you if I had some to sell there, it would tell you, oh, hey, it's going to be a 50% tax. You go, ouch, why is that such a high tax? Well, it is a high tax on purpose. They don't want you to sell. Obviously, selling is the cardinal rule in crypto. If you instead flash in favor, this is the whole thing of looping. If you guys go like, what the hell is looping? Flash in favor tokens to deposit collateral. Borrowing popular tokens against this collateral means a 20% higher yield than selling favor itself. Okay, what? So if we had favor tokens, which I don't, and I wish I could, I will show you. I will show you on another video. But if, assuming we have favor tokens, I can come over here to the Wildlands. This is where all the magic happens. What do I do with it? Well, it's just like credit. You're going to add them to liquidity. This is the whole point. So you would add them, and it would be added up here to your collateral. It would show here. Okay, as collateral right there. It would say wallet balance. It would show what the APY is, etc. Okay, that is Zap. You're probably not going to do that. Most people are going to want to use Flash Loan. Flash Loan is valuable because you're like, I don't want to keep adding money to this forever. Cool, man. You don't have to. You can take your favor tokens, which you have earned that each day or each epoch, and you can flash loan them. Notice it says there are two approval transactions that pop up. The first one's for the flasher contract. That's to borrow. And the other is to borrow on your behalf after supplying the flashed LP to the lending pool. So you'll have two approvals. I don't have anything here, but I would approve the use of PDIF, and then I would approve it again. And then it would say down here, it would say flash loan. Okay, so it's actually three approvals to do this. What's happening when that actually occurs is I'm taking my rewards from the Grove. I would be taking these rewards and I would go directly into the Wildlands through the flash loan. So it would take that PDI, and rather than me having to provide it, here on add, I am manually providing it. Right here on add, I say, okay, I've got favor here, and I'm going to take more fresh collateral PDI, and I'm going to pair those together to make an LP. Why do I want an LP? Well, because these LPs up here become collateral, and I can use that collateral value to borrow against. And that's the whole point. We want to borrow against these. Say, Steve, why the hell am I borrowing? I just wanted to cash out my rewards, because when you borrow through Flash Loan, you can get 60% out of your value. So if you had $10 in rewards, you could get $6 out using Flash Loan. So Flash Loan actually borrows from your $10 the other half. If I had PDI favor, it's using the PDI favor in a flash loan to borrow PDI, and then they're combining them back together into the LP, collateralizing it. So in other words, using it to borrow against. And then I could max loan that to extract $6 out, or $60 on 100, 60%. And what is 60% over 50%? Remember, if I sell, I only get 50 cents on the dollar. If I max loan 60%, I end up with 10 more dollars. So you yield 20% more borrowing. And that is the whole point of the Wildlands system, is that it is more profitable for you to build an LP and then max borrow from that LP than it is for you to sell and dump the chart. Make sense? Okay. So I'm just going to do a little recap there so that you kind of understand that. I've got my tokens from the Groves. I've got my rewards. I've claimed them by clicking the button below. Now they're in my wallet. I'm going to move to Wildlands, and I'm going to come down to add. If I have PDI, I'm going to go here. If I have PulseX, I'm going to go here, etc. So that's going to be wherever you staked your Esteem in the Groves. And I'm going to flash loan it in so I don't have to provide anything but the single side of PDI favor. I'm going to flash loan that in, and then it's going to lend me the other side, PDI. And then that would then show up here after a couple of clicks. So 3 approvals, be patient. That would show as collateral right up here. In this case, we're using PDI as an example. And then as long as there was still asset to borrow in the Stronghold, then I could borrow, and I would slide this slider over, or I would hit max, and I would borrow that to profit. So it says, hey, borrowing is going to reduce your health factor and increase your risk of liquidation. Cool, man. I don't care. I don't care if I'm liquidated. Let me make this really clear. I don't care if I'm liquidated. I've talked about this a lot. If you're new to this, why don't I care if I'm liquidated? It's the big bad in crypto. Well, it's because the only thing I am losing in a liquidation is that 20% that I can't get out anyway. If I sold it, right, if I just sold it and took the 50% haircut, I would have already lost it. It would have been gone. But if I click a couple more buttons and spend a few more fractions of cents on gas on PulseChain, I can get 20% more. And that's the whole thing. That's what's revolutionary. There's no other system in crypto that you get more by building than by selling. Max extractors, whales, VCs, they don't dump on your head, they build. It would be silly for them to just burn 20% of their value if they didn't have to. Now, then why does the token do anything but up and to the right? Because sometimes sales occur. Okay, why would a sell occur that would push that token price down? Let's give you a scenario. Let's say my collateral is in PDI favor, and the value of my collateral and my deposit collateral drops precipitously. Well, I'm going to get liquidated quicker, right? Because what I borrowed is something other than PDI. So if PDI drops compared to PulseX or Pulse, which is likely, or certainly EDI, because EDI will likely stay pegged to $1, then my whole position here, my liquidity position, is up for liquidation. That's not necessarily the end of the world because, again, I got the position for free. I got it from the groves. But from a system perspective, that can lead to selling, which isn't always great for the overall ecosystem. And that's the thing that Nikki and the team's working on right now. The other option is true. Rather than my collateral dropping in price, what if I've borrowed Pulse, for instance, and Pulse decides to 3x? Well, if Pulse 3x's and PDI holds behind, then the same thing happens. My debt triples and my collateral stays the same. I'm going to be liquidated. So not the end of the world, but things to know about. Now, there's a strategy to be played. If I think PDI is going to peg tomorrow and these other tokens won't, you might want to try and play that, but it's all speculative, right? It's not guaranteed. At least with EDI, you only have to worry about one set of volatility, but it's still not totally clean, I guess. Whereas if I can only provide collateral for PDI and borrow PDI, as the value of PDI goes up and down, I'm not liquidated because my debt goes up, right? As the value goes up. So, if it went 100x, my debt's 100x higher, but so is my collateral, at least ideally. Ideally, it's high. The other factor that your collateral is made up half of PDI and half of PDI favor, and PDI favor can fluctuate against the core token. But Nikki and the team are currently making some changes. Those are the changes that we heard about that I mentioned earlier. They currently made this announcement that EDI will be the first completely siloed, so it can only be borrowed against EDI F. So as we wish to do this safely with the code we already know, this requires a complete extra deploying of an entire Aave protocol just for EDI next to our existing deployment, and then a complete wiring up of that deploy with our bots and UI. It's going to take a few days. But until this is complete, we'll slowly manually reduce EDI's borrow limit, so don't be surprised by that. Once everything is done, we can have a look at how it affects the EDI Grove and how well the EDI Grove is doing and whether it does or does not need a temporary boost. So in other words, what they're doing is they're talking about eliminating that additional volatility between cross-collateral lending so that the whole system is simpler, so that you can only borrow EDI from EDI favor collateral, and there would lead to less liquidations, which would likely lead to higher prices and better TWAPs, which better TWAPs then mean higher prices for groves, which means more profitability for Esteem holders, which means more activity in the wildlands, which means higher APYs in the Stronghold. So the team is working adamantly upon improving this system, but let's jump back over here to this. So I think we're there. The flash loan, if there wasn't availability, the only thing you could do would be to sell favor. And so you'd take a little bit more of a haircut. You get 50% out instead of 60% out, but that actually is okay because in those situations, that means all of the Stronghold deposits have been utilized and they need to be returned to the Stronghold. So if they need to be returned to the Stronghold, well, how does that happen? Well, they need to be returned to the Stronghold by liquidations. How do liquidations occur? Liquidations occur by the collateral in the wildlands, the collateral value dropping below the borrow. Well, how does that happen? That happens because people have borrowed more than their collateral is worth, and that would likely happen when the price goes down. So it's a self-leveling system. The ideal nature of this is there's fresh deposits in the stronghold. The wildlanders borrow those core tokens to pair with their favor token in order to extract their daily income. Ideally, that is 60% of its face value every epoch or every day. When all of the assets are borrowed from the stronghold and are utilized in the wildlands, well, as that gets closer and closer and closer to 100% utilized, the interest rates get really high. The rate of interest that the wildlanders pay the stronghold gets pushed closer and closer and closer up to triple digits until essentially, ideally right around there, TWAP is well above 3.0. So there's no more bonus esteem for buying, which means people stop buying. Why would they? They're no longer incentivized to buy favor to get esteem. If you wanted to get in when the TWAP was high, if the TWAP was over 3.0 and you wanted to get in, it doesn't make sense to purchase favor at that point in time. Because if the TWAP is high and you don't get the bonus, well, you're going to spend $100 and only be able to get out $60. That's a loss. But if you can buy when the TWAPs are low, $100, get out $60 immediately, and get 44% bonus esteem, which will print you more favor every single day, you got a free money printer, and your immediate value is 104%. Do you see? That's the value here of buying when TWAPs are low. That's the bonus. You immediately have 104% value when that TWAP is low. If you want to get into the system when the TWAP is high, you're better off just minting esteem. So what is minting? Minting, my friends, we do in the marketplace as well. Minting, we just roll down here and you just mint. So minting, my friends, you scroll down here, you click mint, you decide which asset you want to use. And we have PDI in this wallet, and you just buy Esteem, right? That's, of course, you have to switch to PulseChain to make that happen, and you would buy it. But as long as the TWAPs are low, you're getting a bonus. You're getting the much better, more capital efficient way to do it is to purchase favor, collateralize that favor, max borrow up to 60%. And then in doing so, you're going to earn Esteem, which you'll take over to the groves to stake and earn more favor, which you can borrow up to 60% of. If there comes a time that you can no longer borrow anything else from the stronghold because we are at max capacity, the only thing to do is to sell your favor. In doing so, when you sell your favor, it drops the value of the favor tokens, which triggers liquidations, which returns the money back over to the stronghold depositors with interest and makes them available for either withdrawal by the strongholders or to re-borrow again from the wildlands, and the whole process starts over again. It's ebbs and flows. It's up and down. It's like the tide. It goes in and goes out. It goes up and goes down. And when the strongholds start to run dry, the depositors make very high interest. And when there's plentiful deposits, the interest rate for wildlanders is very low to incentivize them. And it's all a matter of checks and balances. And the entire time you're disincentivized to sell and you are incentivized to buy the token as long as that price is low. Everything balances. It's really genius. I hope this is kind of coming through. I hope I'm not just babbling. I hope that you're starting to pick this up and be like, whoa, this is actually really, really, really cool and really revolutionary. It's its own ecosystem. It doesn't exist in liquidity pools outside of our ecosystem. To leave the ecosystem, you take quite a haircut, so you're incentivized to remain in the ecosystem. And as long as you do, you are earning passive income. That income might be higher, that income might be lower, depending on how much money is in the system or how it's being utilized or other factors. But I think Dickie said in the group the other day, someone asked him, well, what's the ideal amount of favor token in US dollar value that you would like to see per Esteem? Remember how it calculates that? It says for each Esteem, currently PDI was getting just under 2 cents, right? 1.8 cents. That was the best paying one. Some of them were 0.8 of a cent. Well, Nikki said he doesn't really care as long as it's high, but his definition of high was anything below 10 to 30 cents per Esteem was too low. Well, that's over 10 times where we are right now. So the system is being built, it's being refined, it's being changed. If you're a wildlander, you're in it for the ride. We are building the plane as we're flying it, all the while supporting the strongholds. If all of this is too complicated, all of this is too hard, dude, Stronghold all day. We need you. Just like a brick and mortar bank, the ecosystem is not worth much without depositors. Does that make sense? So we must have depositors to deposit into the stronghold so the bank can function, so the bank can do stuff. Think of your bank down the street. If nobody deposits their money into it, they ain't nothing. They got nothing. So the stronghold is very important, and it's the simplest part of the ecosystem. So if at any point in time, if you are confused with the wildlands or you're frustrated, you don't know what's going on, that's fine. Deposit in the stronghold, make an awesome variable rate. Currently, what are our rates right now? Pretty awesome, I think. Yeah, pretty awesome. We can see we've got a nice conservative variable rate of 23%, 35%, 39%. Those are actually kind of down too. Let's see here. Compound interest calculator. If you've never done this, you probably should. Let's say the U.S. government will help us out here. Let's say we want to invest $1,000 Roonies, and you're going to put $100 a month into it. That's not even that much, right? You could probably do more than that. Heck, let's say you pull $100 a paycheck out, so $100 a week. We got $400 a month you're going to add to it. And let's say we're going to do this for 3 years, a measly 3 years. But our interest rate, what do we got here? 23, 35, and 39. All right. Our EDI is down here. We're 6% currently. But honestly, we've seen all of these much, much, much higher. So the goal for these is between 30 and 70%. So if we're between 30 and 70%, then we average about 50, but let's just go ahead and roll that down and say 40%. Actually, here, we'll do this. We'll say it's 50% and our variance is 20%. So that gives us the 30 to 70%. The most this lets us do is daily, but truthfully, in the stronghold, your deposits are compounded constantly, continually. So let's just see what that looks like. Let's calculate what that looks like. Holy smokes. There you go. In 3 years, you'll have $37,857.17. Now, that's if these were good old US dollars. That shows us here the variance, the 30%, you're looking at about 25K. The top side, 70% is 57K. And the middle range there is 37. What did you actually contribute, though? We've only added $15,400. And yet, because of the power of compound interest, you have between 25 and 57,000. So $37,000 would be the average there. Now, in those examples, I'm talking about these variable assets. Now, it is possible for EDI. EDI is quite low right now. 6% is very low for the BetterBank system. This too can be 20, 30, 50% or more. The max, just so you know, the max is around, I think, 150%, but that's pretty extreme. We have seen a lot of higher double digits, and I think these numbers will rise as we move along. But even now, we're at a very kind of quiet, low state while the team kind of tweaks some things. Pre-exploit, we were in this kind of aggressive growth mode. And now post-exploit, we are in a more conservative building mode. And so Nikki and the team have recognized that this has been good for the protocol, that we're safe, we're operating well, but the opportunity has lessened. All right, so here I am. Just as a review, I've come here to the BetterBank home website. I've clicked on Stronghold. That's opened the DApp, and I need to connect the wallet. So this is assuming you already have a wallet that is onboarded to PulseChain. If you don't, you're going to want to look for my upcoming video, BetterBank Academy series. We've done one video for that. It's just introduction to DeFi, but I'm going to do the very next one I'm doing is on wallets and then on bridges. So here, let's log here. Let's log into this wallet. I got my little test wallet here. It's asking what do I want to do. And I think temporarily it's going to switch me over to, Ethereum. So it'll tell you which one you need to do. You obviously need to be on PulseChain, but by default it goes to Ethereum. Cool. There's PulseChain. So here's my little test wallet. It's my little Brave wallet. So currently, BetterBank supports 4 assets. Wrapped PLS and PLS are combined, obviously, because they're the same thing. It's showing me which ones I have in my wallet. I got a whopping 8 cents over there and 51 cents here. I would click deposit. Let's see here. If I deposited my DAI, let's deposit 100 DAI there. Notice it says collateralization unavailable. That means I'm not able to collateralize this asset. That's for your own protection. You don't really want to do that. That's the old Aave v3 system. That's not what this is for. Some people did that early days and they got really wrecked. You don't want to do that. That's not the point of BetterBank at all. So I would approve the asset first. By clicking, it's going to open wallet and it's going to say, hey, do you want this app to be able to spend your DAI? And well, yeah, obviously I do. By spend, it means send. So I'm going to confirm that. Yes, I do. I want to be able to send my DAI to there. Now, I notice Brave here says unlimited. In some wallets, you're going to approve a specific amount, right? That might be the 100 that you're trying to do, where you could manually enter some. Once that's approved, I can supply it. So I click supply. And I can send to the Stronghold. And so then yet again, we wait for that to process. And there we go. It says all done. You supplied 100 DAI. So if we look at this, there we go. My deposit, your deposited assets. So I have 100 of them worth whopping 22 cents. And I'm currently getting 39.05 APY. That's it. You can deposit more by clicking the button beside it, or I can withdraw, right? And I can withdraw up to max anytime it is available. So I'm going to go ahead and withdraw this just to show you how that works. Bang, go. Eventually, I'm going to run out of gas because I think I have whatever 10 cents of gas. Hopefully, the network is chill right now, and I can show you this without having to top this up. There we go. All done. I got my 100 DAI back. What I just did is only going to work as long as PDAI is available. I'm here in the Stronghold. I clicked PDAI, and there's asset available. It's 78.51% utilized. As that utilization climbs closer and closer to 100%, that's what's going to determine the yield over here. Okay, 60% of the pulse is being used, which we can see, yeah, there's less of it used, so the interest rate is lower. Pulse X, same thing, 74%, somewhere in the middle. So this number will change. This is a variable. Just to review, this will change. The goal is between 30 and 70%. We're there, but we're on the lower end of it. EDAI is under it currently. Still better than any savings account you're going to find in North America. But this number can be quite high, up into triple digits. So the rate will vary, but it's compounded daily. It's compounded constantly. And that's what I've just showed you is this side right here. Stronghold. Deposit in the platform, which now you've seen a demonstration of how to do that, and earn high interest yield. That's it. Because what you're doing is you're supplying borrowable assets to wildland users. I want to be really serious here because some people apparently, despite how much you try, despite how much information you get out there, they get confused. Notice how I said that was not at 100% utilization. We looked at all of those fields and none of them were 100% utilized. When they are 100% utilized, which does happen, it happens fairly often, you may have a delay withdrawing your asset from the Stronghold. So while holdings are liquid, there's no lockup. There may be a time in extreme situations where you may have to be patient before you can withdraw that asset. This is exactly the same for brick and mortar banks. If you're confused about that, check out my fractional reserve video. Fractional reserve works because it keeps a fractional reserve of total assets. It's not a one-to-one asset. BetterBank is actually twice as conservative as fiat banks, which is kind of interesting. So if you're interested more in how that works and what fiat banks do and how BetterBank is better, be sure to check out that video. I'll put the link here down below. So yeah, this is a savings account, guys. Your goal is to stay there long term. Ideally, the general consensus about these kind of things, what I guess you would call more conservative investing like this, is that you would never touch the principal. You would only pull the interest. Maybe you're saving up to purchase something down the road. This system does work, but recognize that because of the ebbs and flows of the ecosystem, the way fractionalized reserve works, because of the ebbs and flows, that utilization will go very high and very low. And so that's scary for some people. They're not comfortable. They're like, wait, I might not be able to get my money. And it's like, yeah, because your money might be wrapped up in a loan. But if it's in a loan, it will eventually come back out. That loan will either be repaid or it'll be liquidated. It is over collateralized. When it is liquidated, those funds return to the stronghold, so they can either be lended out again immediately so you can continue to make yield, or for people to withdraw. So your funds are there, they just may be wrapped up in the same way that in a brick and mortar situation, your funds might be wrapped up in somebody's house, right? That's how this whole system works. You earn yield not because Nikki and the team decided to hand out free money. You earn yield because people are doing things with your money. They're borrowing it, doing a bunch of stuff, and paying you interest. That is the stronghold. And I might add, at those times of the highest utilization where you may find, oh, shoot, I can't withdraw right now because all of the funds in the stronghold are being utilized in wildlands loans, that's the time when you're earning the highest amount of interest. So trying to pull it out right then is not doing any favors. You want your money to be working for you. So just soak in those interest rates, kick back and relax. And you gain constantly. Either withdraw your interest and let the capital ride, right, for true long-term passive income, or save for a bigger part. Maybe you want to buy a car, put a deposit down on a house or something. You're never going to find rates like this anywhere else. It's absolutely bonkers. And if you're like, how are these rates so high? I've got a video on that too, which I think might actually be the same video. Fractional reserve. It is fractional reserve banking system. It is truly sustainable. Your brick and mortar bank is making 400%. They're paying you 0.3 in a savings account, but off of between your 8% mortgage and your 13% car rate, that actually calculates to over like 300, 400% a year. So check out that video for that math. It's really bonkers, and they're not giving you any, right? In BetterBank, they are cutting out the middleman. There's no brick and mortar location. There's no security guard. There's no vault. There's no bills to pay. There's no tellers to pay. You just get from me to you. So we use that same system of fractional reserve that's actually been around since 1471 or something, we found out. And you are participating in every day. You may not be aware of that, but you are. You're participating in it every day whenever you use money in any bank. It works just fine and has for, 650 years. You're fine with it then. This is the same thing. We're just really small. We're really small right now. We're itty bitty. We got a $7 million total value, something like that, right? Just before the exploit, we hit 40 and things were bonkers. Numbers were way higher, and we're going to get there again. Marketing's just started. We're so early on this. And I know everybody says that, but we are so early on this. And the team has showed us from the response to the exploit how every single user was made whole, from the improvements they continue to make now, from the boosting that they made when Favor tokens took a turn. Coming up really soon is a 3-day bonus boost. The LP cushion keeps it's another security measure to reduce volatility. And so it's grown to a certain size. We've reached that, and they're going to push a 3-day bonus as a celebration for reaching that. But they've already said, we're not going to push it when people are only making a penny or less per Esteem. We're going to push it when it's actually worth more. What's it worth more? Remember, he wants it like 10 to 30 times higher than it is now. So 10 to 30 times higher, and there's a bonus coming down the road. Guys, if you're not in on this, this is the alpha. This is the big thing. Again, if Wildlands is too much for you, it is a lot. It's a whole thing, but we're here to support you. That's what the Discord's for. It's really all happening on Telegram. That's the jam. That's where all the action happens. That's what all my videos are for, is to support Wildlanders and Strongholders. But if it's too tough, Stronghold. Now you say, well, what do I do with that profit every single day? Well, I can tell you a great thing you could do with it. If you don't need it to go buy ice cream or pay bills, stick it over in the Stronghold. Take their daily 60%, their favor print, and they max borrow, and they put it in the Stronghold, where it goes on to earn another 30 to 70% APY. The opportunity is bonkers. And like I said before, the longer you wait, the more it's going to cost you to get into these positions, because every single day the cost of Esteem goes up 25 cents. We're almost double the price of where it was when we started just a few months ago. So I hope all that makes sense. That's what to do when. We're just going to zip through it one more time. because reinforce, reinforce, reinforce. That's what we show, right? If you want to get into the wildlands, if the TWAP is below 3, you want to purchase Favor. That's how you get the bonus 44% esteem. You're going to stake that bonus esteem in the wildlands groves. That will earn you bonus Favor every epoch, every single hour. So now you've got your original Favor that you purchased and your epoch rewards. Those reward Favor tokens you're going to flash loan in whenever you can, and then you're going to max borrow 60% to have your income. That 60% income can go back into purchasing more Favor to get more esteem, to stake that esteem to get even more Favor, to borrow 60%, to then purchase more Favor, to get 40%, to stake, to get more Favor, to get 60%, to purchase more Favor, to get more bonus. That's looping, by the way. Anybody's like, well, what's looping? That's what looping is. It's where you just keep going round and round and round because you are accumulating esteem so you can get a bigger and bigger piece of pie and more passive income rewards every day. The other thing you could do is you could purchase Favor to get your esteem bonus, to stake your esteem, to earn Favor every epoch, to collateralize that Favor with flash loan, to pocket, to profit 60%, and put that 60% over in the Stronghold for a long-term high interest yield by letting other people, yourself included, borrow that. The Stronghold gets larger and larger and larger, and the wildlands can fly. If TWAP is over 3, you're going to mint esteem. If you want to get into the ecosystem and you don't have patience, you mint esteem. You don't get a bonus, but you get whatever the mint rate is. You stake that esteem, you earn Favor, and the same thing happens again. If ever you wanted to leave the ecosystem, you could smelt it, but I wouldn't recommend it because you're not going to be able to ever buy in cheaper again. So when you smelt it, you only get 70% of its value, and you get those in Favor tokens. So when you smelt, say you smelt $100 worth of esteem, you'll get $70 in Favor tokens. But remember, if you want to sell that, you're going to get a 50% tax. So by the time you go this route, mint, smelt, Favor, sell, you're only walking away with 35% of your value. You're much better off to keep that esteem in the groves, earning passive income, and withdrawing 60% every single epoch. Okay, that's it. That's the whole shebang. You could take a look at that and take a look as well at my masterclass video. But that's what to do when. If you're confused what to do when, that's what you do. That's the whole BetterBank protocol. So my name is MoteItBe.pls-SJY. I hope that was helpful for you. I know that was dense. If you're just getting started out in crypto, if you're just getting started out in DeFi or PulseChain, be sure to check out our BetterBank Academy series. We just started that. The first one is an introduction to DeFi. We're coming out next with PulseChain wallets and bridging. How do we actually get money here? And then we're going to be doing videos on how to interact with these protocols step by step with a follow-along tutorial. So similar to what I did now, but even slower. You can pause it and walk right along with us. Okay? So that's coming up soon. If all of this is too hard for you, check me out. I do one-on-ones. You can book a session on Calendly, and I'll walk you through every little bit of this. We can talk about crypto. We can talk about PulseChain. We can talk about BetterBank, and I'll walk you through one-on-one strategy sessions or demonstrations, however you wish. Check out my videos on YouTube. Like, subscribe, do all that crap. Man, I love you guys. Keep on doing this. This stuff is revolutionary. It's wild. We're going places. Stay tuned.